uMkhonto weSizwe party is demanding the immediate withdrawal of the suspension of its MPLs from the KwaZulu-Natal legislature. 35 MKP members have been suspended following the violent disruption of a sitting during a no-confidence motion against Premier Thami Ntuli, a motion that he survived. The party has written to Speaker Nontombeko Boyce through its lawyers, arguing that the suspension is unlawful and irrational. MK Party has issued an ultimatum to withdraw the suspension before the 31st of December or face legal action. All right, we speak now to the MKP spokesperson, Nhlamulo Ndhlela, who's going to give us live action with regards to, rather, reaction. Nhlamulo, very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time and for joining us. So, over time, since the Speaker had, the incident had taken place in the KZN legislature, some analysts had argued that her actions were lawful and legal, and she was well within her rights, and some have said that maybe she was just politically incorrect. But your statement describes her actions as unlawful and procedurally defective. Maybe just talk us through the specific constitutional principles that you base this on.
Good afternoon to your viewers. I think what we need to unpack here is that we requested, firstly, a motion of no confidence against the Premier, and off the back of that also requested that the voting happen by way of a secret ballot. Now, the motion of no confidence was obviously tabled, the debates happened. At the point at which we requested the secret ballot, the Speaker then went on to use a judgment which, quite honestly, she bastardized in terms of the application of the law. Because, yes, the powers do lie with the Speaker, but more so, let's not forget that that same morning, members of our legislature were threatened. At least 5 of them were threatened. We actually had to open up a case. And there was beyond more than enough reason for her, besides all the other issues that we have raised, for her to actually issue allow a vote by a secret ballot. What then happened is that we then requested that, and she then decided that, because of it being her constitutional right, and she saw no reason to do that, that she ought to then continue with the motion without a secret ballot. Our members then obviously stood up in protest and requested, even prior to actually standing up, they requested to make further representations as to why this motion must be by secret ballot. Because we know, if you look at the kind of violence that happens in KZN and the political killings, the province itself is rife with that. It's a very volatile province. Especially that's why you'd actually find a situation where our members are being threatened the way that they are, including other members of other political parties. So it was a very sensitive situation that needed her to use her diligence and exercise, the powers to ensure that the members are safeguarded by ensuring that it's a secret vote. At that point, she then decided it's not going to happen. We were then in protest and requesting, why is it that she's not allowing us our constitutional right to ensure that we represent our electorate and our members accordingly? Because we need to ensure that before we even come to a conclusion of not having a secret ballot, our views are represented. She refused. That's when our members obviously stood up and they were singing. There's nothing wrong with singing. It is not disruption. She could have just called the leaders of the various political parties, party leaders and the chief whip, and requested them to please, step aside, let's have a discussion and resolve this issue. She never did that. She went on to by default, to call the police. Now, the police arrived there. Secondly, there's no mace. So the sitting itself is not duly constituted. The police arrived there with live rounds. That decision by her to call the police, by the way, is also illegal because there was no threat. By virtue of her calling the police, that is what led to the disorderly outcomes of that actual sitting. Because at that point in time, this was an issue that could have been held and discussed without involving the police. But unfortunately, the Speaker, in her arrogance and not wanting to resolve this issue constitutionally, just decided on that. Now, for her to come to a point of saying that she's suspending our members, she can't just go and suspend our members. There are rules that you have to follow. And I mean, it's well set out from Rule 61 right up to Rule 66 that states clearly what processes you need to follow. One of those being you have to call out the member's name, at least 3 times prior to you removing them. All 34 members' names were not all called out 3 times. That never happened. And also, the other question is, was that even in the presence of a mace in the legislature, in the House? No. So, there's a lot of discrepancies in terms of how she went about it. We believe, it was procedurally irregular, and we're going to challenge it in court, including her wanting to suspend our members as per, and not following Rule 63(1), which is clear in terms of how you'd have to go and how you go about suspending a member from the House.
Yeah.
She never followed any of those. And hence we're saying, her actions are unconstitutional. They're irregular in procedure. And we are giving her that deadline of the 31st of December to ensure she withdraws that, or she's going to face legal action and then be embarrassed.
And I mean, in your statement with regards to that deadline of the 31st of December, you mention that there's a possibility of rolling out mass action. What exactly do you intend to do if those suspensions are not withdrawn?
Well, mass action is exactly that. I mean, the people of KZN are sick and tired of this GPU that has never delivered, that has got incompetent leaders, that has got people in the form of a premier who will take his girlfriends on trips, spending millions of rands of taxpayers' money. By the way, the same speaker is also implicated in this. So you can see that the ANC will do a stop at nothing to safeguard their blue lights, to safeguard the corruption. And we are saying uMkhonto weSizwe party is the majority party in KZN. The people of KZN rejected the coalition of rejects, which is the GPU. The people of KZN want uMkhonto weSizwe to govern. And until uMkhonto weSizwe governs, we're going to ensure that we use all whatever tools that we have to ensure that that the will of the people governs KZN. Now, rolling mass action effectively means exactly that. If it means that people must come out and in protest of what is happening, so shall it be. Because it cannot be that we're going to be governed, or the people of KZN are going to be governed by an illegitimate government that doesn't represent their interests.
All right, Nhlamulo Ndhlela, the MK party spokesperson, thank you so much for giving us reaction to that statement that has been put out by the party with regards to the KZN legislature. Their members there now placed under suspension by the speaker. This is an unpaid leave for a number of 4 days, and the MK party is saying that the speaker should withdraw that immediately or there will be mass action from that party.